Big news out of the Vancouver Canucks earlier this morning, as we had ourselves Francesco Aquilini, the chairman and governor of the team, announcing today that President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford has signed a multi-year contract extension. And the graphic that they put together was very nice. The Canucks are paying tribute to a guy that acts as the buffer between management, so Alvin, Castonguay, Granado, everybody else, and the ownership. Jim Rutherford has done a pretty good job in terms of being that transitory piece of information between both of the parties, and I think based off of what Rutherford has been able to accomplish over his long career as an NHL executive, him being placed in this spot in Vancouver to mentor a young and up-and-coming GM like Patrick Allvin, he's done a pretty good job so far, and the Vancouver Canucks are rewarding him for his efforts with a contract extension. Now, we are on Brendan Batchelor's Twitter account because there was a press conference with Aquilini and with Rutherford that went over a whole bunch of quotes. They had a lot of things to talk about in regards to the team. I actually opened my eyes early today and was able to wake up to watch this, so these are some of the quotes that I thought stood out. Brendan Batchelor tweets out all of them. Big shout-outs over to Batch. We also have ourselves a really interesting rumor that started up today based off of what Elliotte Friedman said on the radio, so stay tuned to the end of this video to check out that. But let's head over to this press conference with Aquilini and Rutherford, starting out with some of the things that Aquilini had to say in regards to this Canucks team and their season. There's still a lot of hockey to be played, but it's fun to be a Vancouver Canucks fan and fun to be a Canucks player. Yep, I'm going to agree with that. I can't say that it's been like that for the majority of the past few years, but nowadays it is probably the case. Aquilini also confirms that the extension for Rutherford is 3 years long, which is pretty great, honestly. Like, good for Rutherford for getting that bag, considering the guy is 74 years old already. I mean, he's already pretty old and experienced, so the fact that he's signed on for 3 more years till he's gonna be 78 years old, because he's turning 75 in February, that's awesome. What an absolute rock star for this guy to be this old and still kicking. That's probably the wrong word to use, I apologize, but there are some extra things here that Rutherford talks about. You can make the right changes and it can still not work, he said in regards to the trade deadline. He notes that there's also a certain risk to not doing anything when your team is at a certain level. This group of players and coaches deserve the best opportunity to compete, which aligns with what we had heard from Patrick Allvin earlier last week when he said, yeah, I kind of have a responsibility to these players and this team to give them the best chips to remain competitive, especially when they're this good in this season's worth of play. He also says in regards to his journey as the Vancouver Canucks president of hockey operations, we've had good players in the past, but we didn't have a team. Now we have a team. And this comes fresh off the heels of Jim Benning and his shenanigans, all the extra guys that they acquired over there. Yep, Allvin and Rutherford are in this spot. They didn't have a team. Now they have themselves a team. And I really like that sense of direction that is being displayed here by the Canucks president of hockey ops. He says, though, we're not there yet, even though we have made progress. We sit in a good place, but we still have work to do. And that right there, mwah, chef's kiss right there. Is that not the same philosophy that Rick Tocchet goes out there and enforces within these players? That even though they're winning games, even though they went 5-1-1 on the road trip, even though they are first in the NHL right now, there's still more work to do. They're not done yet. They still want to go for more. They're clawing for more out of this season, even though they're already in such a great spot. Rutherford also says in regards to Allvin, he's got a strong supporting cast that he's put together and that he trusts. He's a very hardworking, knowledgeable hockey guy. There then is a conversation about Bruce Boudreau, that he had a way that he wanted to play that worked for him over his career, and the organization had a different way we wanted the team to play. That's why the change happened. Now, that's not something that I think should be too surprising, considering the very apparent differences between Rick Tocchet and Bruce Boudreau, the styles of coaching, the styles of personality. I mean, not to say that Bruce Boudreau was a bad guy. We recognize the Bruce bump was a thing, but just considering the Canucks in their direction, it was time to move on by the time the 2022 season began. Aquilini then talks a little bit more about the team itself. He wanted to get this done. They started talking the minute he signed the contract. I told Jim Rutherford I would like him to stay. We're very excited. He also talked about the similarities between this team and the 2011 team. This is very similar. We're on pace to maybe win the President's Trophy. Who knows? Oh boy, that's pumping the tires a little bit there, Aquaman, isn't it? I don't know how I feel about that, but if the Canucks do win the President's Trophy, then I won't say I wouldn't like that, but still, we're at the halfway mark of the year, man. Calm down, calm down. There then is a bigger conversation about Elias Pettersson. Rutherford said, yeah, my son asked me about the Pettersson contract at 7 o'clock this morning. We can wait, though. We really want Petey to stay. He's a special player. He's important to the Canucks and the city. Aquilini also said, from an ownership perspective, we really want Elias to stay. We hope that Jim can come to a conclusion, and hopefully we can get that done. We've been waiting for this for a long time. As owners, you want to be the owner that brings the cup to the city. That's every owner's ultimate dream, that pursuit of the Stanley Cup. That's what it's all about. So Aquilini at least going out there and admitting that Stanley Cup goals are in mind at this point in time, which is not surprising, but it is interesting just to see it written out there on paper. He even says this could be the year, who knows? Which isn't wrong. We'll see. We will see. There are a few extra comments. There's a big one on Kuzmenko that we can talk about. I don't know what we do more than what the coaching staff has been doing. Kuzmenko has lost his confidence. He's a good player. He can score. There's no doubt in my mind, whether it's in Vancouver or another NHL city, Kuzmenko will score. Well, spoiler alert, the guy hasn't had a point in 8 games, so that's kind of already on the downfall there, but still, Rutherford is right. Whether or not this means a Kuzmenko trade will be coming soon, who really knows? But before we end off this video, I wanted to go out there and do one more little thing in regards to the Canucks, because all this talk about Rutherford getting extended, all this talk about Kuzmenko, about Elias Pettersson, what I wanted to do was also talk about a guy that isn't on the Vancouver Canucks, and this could be an entire separate video in its own right, but why not just combine the two, considering we have the time? We had Jeff Merrick and Elliotte Friedman on the Jeff Merrick Show talking about the Canucks going all in this year. This is what Elliotte Friedman said on the broadcast. The reason I mention Elias Lindholm and the Vancouver Canucks is, number one, Vancouver and Calgary have done a deal this year. The why Rutherford and Alvin do business, they make deals, and I find it very hard to believe they wouldn't call Calgary and say, okay, what are you thinking here? It's circumstantial evidence, but I think it's good circumstantial evidence. So Elliotte Friedman is going out there and linking Elias Lindholm from the Calgary Flames to the Vancouver Canucks. And whether or not this is another guy who can come over here and be like this Jake Guentzel kind of player, that remains to be seen. Lindholm is having a pretty good season, all things considered, but not the best season that he's capable of. He's at 30 points in 45 games played, on pace for 15 goals on the season, which would be a huge decline from the 42 goals he had scored just 2 years ago. He had 82 points in 82 games played that season and was just under a point per game in the playoffs. Now, this Calgary Flames team, wherein he had these numbers, he was playing with Tkachuk and Gaudreau. They were all really good, and he had the point per game numbers, which was great, but now he's taken a pretty big downfall. 64 points in 80 games played, 30 points now in 45. He's been a lot more of a playmaker, which is not bad. It's just from 2 years ago to now, there has been a pretty significant decline, and there has been a big decline for a lot of these Calgary Flames players, so it's certainly not exclusive to Elias Lindholm, but he's making $4.8 million a year till the end of this season. He is a UFA rental. So if the Vancouver Canucks make a trade for a guy like Lindholm rather than a guy like Guentzel, maybe this could be the target that puts them over the edge. We know Patrick Allvin likes his Swedes. We know Patrick Allvin is not afraid to talk to Calgary of all teams to get a deal done. So is Elias Lindholm somebody that the Vancouver Canucks could consider? Now, there is an extra conversation to be had about extending guys, which I guess we could get into, but, I mean, it's the same thing with Jake Guentzel, right? If you want to trade away younger pieces for guys that can help you out in the now, you have to decide, like, are you really just trading them away for the now, or are you trying to extend them too? You want to keep them on your team for a while. Lindholm is 29 years old, 2013 5th overall pick, so the same age as Bo Horvat pretty much, and just a tad younger than JT Miller. but he is a right-handed center who can win draws and who can score some goals that has been pretty good in the past. So if the Canucks need another right-handed shot to replace Kuzmenko, maybe Lindholm's that guy. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Vancouver Canucks firstly extending Jim Rutherford, and then the idea that Elliotte Friedman went out there and posted up on the Jeff Merrick show that, hey, Elias Lindholm could very well be a guy the Vancouver Canucks go out there and target. So 2 topics on today's chopping block. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this British 99, and bye.